Welcome to the Sports Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Luhr, and I probably should say welcome to the Esports Entrepreneurs Podcast today. I'm thrilled to have someone highly experienced and a legend, in a sense, in the industry, Mr. Rahul Sood, on the line from Seattle. Good morning, Rahul.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good. It's evening for you there, but it's morning here in Kuala Lumpur. Now I'm looking forward to having my first esports conversation here. But before we get there, we'll have a little bit to go. And as usual, let me quickly introduce yourself to the audience here. You're the founder of Voodoo PC, and we'll dig deep into the amazing stories there. You also spent several years at Microsoft Ventures. I believe you helped start that part of the company at that time, working with Steve Ballmer. And of course, you are the co-founder of Unikrn, together with my buddy Karl. And that's really where we're going to finishing up the conversation. So from what I can see, you are a gamer at heart and truly a very successful entrepreneur in the world of, computers, esports, e-gaming, and this is really what this conversation is all about. So let's kick it off, and I'm sure many interviews will ask you the same question. Please tell us how Voodoo PC got started. I read you pretty much came straight out of high school with your credit card, but I want to hear your side of the story.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what happened. It was a long time ago, and it was back when computers were very much a commodity, and they were very boring, and there was nothing really designed for gaming. And I liked playing video games then, and I liked building my own PCs, and that's how it started. It basically started with me building PCs out of a garage somewhere. And then I hired a friend of mine, and over time, this company just took off, and it became a global brand. We had a really great team. We were competing with the largest companies in the world, and we had multiple companies trying to court us at one point in time, and we ended up selling it to HP, which is where the Omen came from. The Omen came from Voodoo originally, and they've now revived it as the HP Omen brand, which I guess is okay, but it's not the outcome that I would have wanted. But it was a good experience. Sold the company, and we did really well, and I think that's what happened. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'd love you to maybe touch on that a little more. Selling a business, especially when you build, how did that feel? What was the sort of the emotions you had? Was it like, great, I made a lot of money and that's fantastic, or it was more like, oh, I'm giving up my baby here?
Yeah, it was more like it was a great feeling at first. You figured that the management aligns with what you want to do, and we had a plan to go forward. But then, you learn very quickly that big companies don't operate, the same as a startup does, and their mentality is completely different. It was my first, real job, to be honest. Working at HP as a CTO was, the first time I actually worked for someone else, at a scale. And it was a good experience overall. I learned a lot. I learned what it takes to work inside of a big organization. I never thought I would go back to a large company again. I mean, after 3 years of being under contract with HP, I was just dying to get out, and I did get out. And I was involved in a couple of startups, but it turns out that I decided to join Microsoft. It was kind of a fluke situation, but it was a really interesting offer. So I decided to join Microsoft eventually.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about Microsoft. I mean, everyone knows who that is, and I believe you started the sort of the venture side of it with a certain amount of budget and funding in place. And tell us some stories there. How did that start, and who, working with Steve Ballmer at that time. I don't know, who else. Please.
Well, I mean, obviously Satya Nadella was still there, and he was one of the presidents in the company. And I was tasked to start a venture fund. I actually pitched a venture fund for startups, which was the Bing Fund. And originally and Bing. And it started to gain in popularity. So I was asked by Satya Nadella to come up with a plan for all of Microsoft, and that's where
Right.
we came up with a plan for Microsoft Ventures, and and got permission to go make it happen. So it was a cool run. It was a great experience. Starting out a venture fund from from a small team in Seattle. We built accelerators around the world. We helped startups to get their first round of funding. And then mainly what they cared about was connecting with large customers. So it was a really great experience for these startups. And one of the startups that we invested in was where I met Karl, Flores, my business partner in Unikrn. So it's
Yes.
pretty interesting run, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, again, being back into now a very large company, of course, it's or close to $1 trillion business. And but having your sort of, I guess, your own playground, that's probably what excited you and attracted you to it. How did it work? I mean, it's just like, here's some money, Rahul, and go spend it and find some startups and have some build it. So what was the real remit you had? Anything which links to the Microsoft ecosystem, or what was the real strategy behind it?
Look, the real strategy was to help the startup ecosystem build and grow. And for us, it was help them build and grow and help them connect to Microsoft customers. So basically, help Microsoft's largest customers innovate, and that was it.
Okay.
It was a really cool program. There was no requirements for us to sell people on Microsoft software. We just did. It just happened to work out that way. These startups had no idea what the stuff that we had, and we made it available to them, and they adopted it. So it was a really good program. One of the amazing things about this business was we were able to travel the world and meet with startup ecosystems in different countries.
Right.
Whether it was Israel, India, China, Germany, I mean Russia, like everywhere we were. It was awesome. So it was a good experience. Very fun job.
Yep. And anyway, and I'd say, is there a big name which you uncovered, and now everyone would recognize them as a brand, or where are those sort of starts? At what sort of levels are they?
Well, there's probably quite a few. Many of them are in China. There was. There was companies that got on the BizSpark program that became very large. Like, for example, Bittrex. It's a large exchange based in Seattle.
Yeah.
These guys were one of the largest growing or fastest growing startups in the world at one point. And now they're probably the largest user, or where it was the largest user of Azure on Earth at some point in time. So there's some interesting companies that have come out of it. There's many failures, of course. That's just the startup world. But overall, when I left, the portfolio was worth somewhere around $4.5 billion.
Wow.
And we barely put in, like 25 million into it, I think. So it
What?
was pretty incredible. Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, how much money did you? So, but when you started, how big was the fund at that time?
It was tiny. Like we basically worked off of the balance sheet. So it wasn't like we had a large fund. It
Right.
was more about just connecting these startups, helping them build and grow, and then connecting them to venture capital.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Well, so that, I guess that's how you get to know Carl, and you guys are buddied up there. In Microsoft, were you still already looking at esports or e-gaming at all, or this was really completely other areas of the business?
Well, I mean, yeah, we were looking at trends, and one of the, I was involved in a betting company a long time ago, called Play All, that I
Mhm.
started with a friend of mine based in Germany. And it was a platform that let people play games like Call of Duty against each other for money, games of skill.
Okay.
And Carl is from Australia. He likes to gamble on sports, like everybody in Australia likes to bet, right?
Right.
And he's also a great gamer. And we're just chatting about this concept of this company that I was involved with years ago. And he was talking about the growth of esports and how big it is. And he said we should just go start something. And so what I did was I contacted the guy that I started Play All with, Daniel Rudolph, our CTO,
Yeah.
and the three of us got on the phone and just hashed it out and said, let's go make this happen, and we did. in November of 2014, in October of 2014, I announced I was leaving Microsoft. In November, we started Unikrn, and 8 days later, I was on CNBC, and we raised, like within a few months, $10 million. So it was great.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Yes, and I know you have some illustrious shareholders there. Maybe just rattle off a bit the name there. That's always sounds sexy.
We've got people like Ashton Kutcher and Mark Cuban and Sherry Redstone, Liz Murdoch, Tabcorp. It's one of the largest gambling companies in Australia, or the largest. And then there's a number of others, that prefer not to be named, but there's
Sure.
Larger funds and things like that that got involved.
And how do you believe you attracted them? Is it just because of your great track record, with Voodoo and of course Microsoft, that they knew you already, or how did you?
It was a combination of things. I mean, Karl and I worked, day and night on this. We walked the streets of San Francisco, and we met a lot of people along the way. I mean, we both did heavy lifting on this, on the story of Unikrn and putting it all together. And so it was a combination of things. It was basically, a snowball effect. Once somebody else came in, then more people wanted in, and it got to a point where we couldn't let anybody else in. So it was pretty cool.
That sounds like it. Yeah, and then you did something else, which I personally think is very cool, because you then you did an ICO. You created the Uni token or Unicoin, sorry, and you raised, I believe, another $30 million there, which is sort of what I tried to with our project, with our SportsFix product, which unfortunately didn't work so well. Talk me through that, because I know the crazy days of ICOs in 2017, 18. I guess you found that you had a nice little sweet spot. Talk me through that a bit more.
Yeah, so the Unikrn created the Unicoin in 2015, actually.
Okay.
And the reason we created this coin was because we wanted people to have access to our platform that weren't necessarily in an area where gambling was regulated. So so we created this free coin,
right,
where people could play for free, and they could they could basically earn these coins and use them on the platform anywhere in the world. And for us, it was about building community, getting people, using the platform, and then eventually, when we got a license, we would pop them on to real money betting and that sort of thing. And so the popularity of the Unicoin was pretty was pretty big. And so in 2017, we decided to create the crypto version of that coin.
right.
That was Unicoin Gold. And so we effectively just moved customers over from this free coin to this coin that they could buy and trade on other platforms, because many of them just wanted, more ways of using it. And so that was it. That was really, the reason that we did this.
Really, I like that. And now, at the time when you first launched it, was it already on blockchain? Was blockchain had part of it, or nothing to do with it? It was just a regular token.
Yeah, it was just a regular internal token.
Right.
We decided to build on blockchain because we wanted, so in our business, in the gambling business, it's very challenging. The payments, like dealing with payment processors and things like that. So blockchain for us was about making payments more accessible. And so we did that. We launched on blockchain, and we made this thing, super accessible, easy to use. And we now accept multiple cryptocurrencies on the platform, along with, dollars as well. Like, we'll accept US dollars and euros and things like that. Right. But we just wanted to give customers more ways to pay.
Yeah. And I well, again, maybe the question is a little loaded here, but using a cryptocurrency obviously also goes a bit around regulators, who like to get their fingers into the pie when it comes to using their currency. Was that part of it, in a sense, or? No,
not at all. In fact, for us, using cryptocurrency is about making it more transparent for regulators. We're like the first company in the world to be able to get a license from the Isle of Man for an international gaming license for cryptocurrency on sports, esports, online casino, and skill betting. and they gave us that license because of our compliance. So we really care about compliance, and we care about things like KYC and anti-money laundering and things like that. So we put a lot of thought into this before we went live.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it definitely looks like it. Now, let's go a little back. Talk people through really what is Unikrn. I mean, the idea of betting on esports. I have to admit, when I first thought of it, I was like, wow. First, it's brilliant, but wow, how did you actually think of that? Let's go there.
Well, so again, with Unikrn, the way we thought about it was, I was talking to Karl about the old company that I was involved with, the skill-based betting platform, and we talked about the challenges with betting on yourself in video games, or just in general, like the poker effect, where if you're not very good at a video game and you join this platform and you bet money on it, what happens when you lose? You don't come back. And so we talked about that, and we said, like, what if we were to create a platform that allows you to play against people that are within your skill set, and you can bet on yourself, right? And that's sort of where the idea came from. And then we paired that with esports, and we saw this, there's this massive opportunity with these public esports events where people can watch professional players play against each other in these big video game competitions. And we wanted to be the biggest bookmaker in the world for esports. Right. So that's what we set out to do, and that's where we are now. We're the biggest brand in the space. We won Esports Operator of the Year last year from for 2019 from EGR, which is a huge magazine for the gambling business. Yes. And I think we've achieved most of our goals at this point. We still have challenges. I mean, this pandemic isn't helping us in any way. We have regulatory challenges like everybody else, but we're dealing with them. And the cryptocurrency space is tough because customers are still not there yet. It's still hard to use. We got to make it easier. We got to make it more accessible and things like that.
For sure, for sure. I mean, again, so when you first started, and that's always puzzles me when I was listening to some of your other podcasts, betting against yourself or betting on yourself. How does that work? How do you bet on yourself?
So you connect your favorite video game to the platform, like Fortnite or say League of Legends or Dota, and when you connect it, Unikrn puts odds on you. So in other words, you don't have to bet against me; you bet on yourself, and we basically let you bet on yourself. We give you odds, and you can do it 24 hours a day.
Right, but if you, I mean, again, this is where my head is still scrambling a bit here. Maybe it's still early in the morning. Can I not manipulate that if I'm betting on myself?
No, you can't, because we're not changing the game data at all. And you're basically, the game that you're playing is setting up the matchmaking for you. The only way that you could potentially game the system is if you have someone else sit in your seat and play for you. But we'll know. I mean, that's what we do best, right? We're a gambling company. We do, we look at data and anomalies and we make quick decisions. So we'll know. And then if we find out, which we will, we can ban your account for life and you can't come back. Even if you try changing your name, because we know who you are.
It's amazing. Now, in terms of your business now, what would be larger, betting on the big esports games and big tournaments around the world, or people doing this, like you said, betting on yourself? What's the larger part of the business?
It's kind of both. It's a mix. People come to the platform and they bet on all sorts of stuff. So sometimes they might just bet on themselves in a game, or they might bet on a professional tournament. I mean, if you come to unikrn.com, you can see pretty much what we do. We've got U mode where you can bet on yourself. We have money match where you can bet against friends. And then we have rewards. We also have these professional tournaments that people can, watch and participate and bet on. It's a really, really neat system.
Yeah, I've seen it. Now, who are your competitors right now? Is it traditional gaming companies who are now going, hey, we got to be in that space too, or who do you really compete with?
Yeah, I would say it's traditional, gambling companies that want to get into the space. It's the old guard, and the casinos who want to protect their slot machine business, which is really a joke. To be honest with you, it's a dying business, and they've taken they've taken every step to sort of protect that business and not innovate, unfortunately. And now with this pandemic, they have to shut down their physical spaces, and they don't have a digital strategy. It's insane. And we've been pushing them to partner with us for years. And yeah, although we have worked with casino operators, the level of innovation that they need to do to keep up is just it's crazy. So they've got a lot of work to do to get there. Right. But in any case, so we created this this site, and we have all of these different features, and it's been great. So
and when you launched first, which part of the world did you really launch in? Because US of course has crazy regulations in the space. Where did you guys start?
So we launched in Australia and the UK originally with one of our investors at Tabcorp's licenses. And then when we went from there, we kind of got our own license eventually, and now we're in about 40 countries. Okay. So yeah, it was quite a run, when we first started. But since then, we've grown to 40 countries. We operate our skill betting in the US, yeah, it's been good. It's been interesting to see us go from 2 countries to 40 countries. I think probably our biggest challenge now is dealing with languages and localization and things like that. I mean, these are probably good problems to have, but yeah.
Yep, that's a great problem to have. And I guess you need a license for each market, or you have some sort of there's some global regulation.
So yeah, we have a license in. We have an international gaming license. Yeah. For the U mode, we don't technically need a license actually because it's a skill. Okay. So our skill-based products, our U mode and our money match, don't need licenses. Where we need licenses is on the esports betting, and in the US, you have to be regulated state by state, and that's something that we continue to work on. So. Yeah.
Globally, you're sitting in Malta, or where you have a license from one of those places?
In the Isle of Man.
Isle of Man, I've got it. Okay. Now, obviously, e-gaming is getting bigger and bigger, and then esports, which is the professional part of it, is growing as well. How you guys work within the ecosystem? Are you supporting more events, or which angle you really come from?
So how do we support esports, like the
professional?
How do you?
Yeah, exactly. Because the more I guess these events are better, are you sponsoring these things like the way betting companies do sports?
Yeah, so sometimes we do. Sometimes we actually run our own tournaments, and we invite the top teams to come and play, and we set odds on them. We actually have our own online tournament platform to do that. So sometimes we just take on odds from major tournaments that are happening. So right now, if you logged into Unikrn, you'd see there's different types of betting. There's the best of tournaments, which are running now. There's one Rainbow Six tournament that's happening right now in front of about 20,000 viewers on one channel, taking bets on that. And you can see the live odds. People can watch the match as they go, and they can place live odd betting while it's going. And I guess what's cool about that is in a world with no sports, you've got esports, right? And you can bet on esports. We also do sports betting actually. So we introduced sports betting because a lot of our customers wanted access to be able to bet on sports as well. Okay. So they wanted to parlay on an esport as well as a professional sport. You can only do that on the Unikrn platform. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And is that a separate license again, or that all works within one?
So sports betting is just the same as esports betting. It's considered a sport.
Got it. And so right now, what would be your number one market in the world? Where you have the biggest followers and or spenders?
Man, it's hard to say. Like you gotta remember we break down our product into different different things. So we have our skill betting and we have our spectator betting. Across Europe, spectator betting is pretty popular. In places in Asia and the US, the skill betting is just nuts. It's very, very popular. Some of these esports events are popular in Asia. We operate in Latin America as well. So all of the markets are different depending on the game that we offer. But esports generally is just growing globally. So Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, and that's why we in it too. But yeah, and of course here in Asia it is massive. But Asia also is very much a mobile-driven game. So the games you're betting on, is it you also betting on mobile, the mobile games, or is it more the PC and console games?
No, we support mobile as well. So we actually let you play some mobile games and bet on yourself on mobile. So you
Right.
can decide what you want to play. Like Fortnite, for example, we'll let you connect any platform to the platform and bet on yourself.
Mm,
Um,
awesome.
yeah.
I mean, I
So
have to say it's genius. Really, I love you guys are in such an amazing spot there. Now, and I love the name Unicorn. So, how close are you, or are you a unicorn already?
well, I would say at one point we probably were. The crypto market is pretty crazy. The pandemic has not made it any easier on us. When you think about all of these casino operators, they're now calling us to partner with us, but they furloughed 95% of their staff. So
Yes.
so there's not much that they can do. It's pretty ridiculous. So at the moment we're growing our digital business. And we're optimizing the business as much as we can. We're just waiting for things to reopen. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's maybe a good topic to go for a minute. With the crisis, things have shut down, but everyone knows e-gaming is going crazy. People are obviously having more time and spending time at home and playing. And even the professional side still has happened. It's less in a real world, but virtually it's still out there. So you would assume that was kind of in your favor. But you sort of keep saying that it wasn't as much. So what you guys didn't see a big uptick on the back of it,
On the back of the
of
pandemic.
the pandemic.
Oh, of course. Yeah, we definitely did. We saw we saw a huge uptick in deposits and things like that. So yes, without question, we did. Where we saw a drop was in sporting events, clearly,
Sure.
and just generally, we've been trying to onboard regular sports customers onto esports. So we've had some technical stuff that we're building on. We've had some, in terms of scaling the business and things like that. We're dealing with optimizing the platform as much as we possibly can. But we also had some stuff, some partnerships we were working on that have been kind of delayed because of the pandemic. So it's everybody has their challenges. I mean, I must say, being in the business that we're in, we're fortunate to be where we are in terms of the growth of the brand and the growth of the platform. We didn't expect to grow on the basis of a pandemic, so that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So yeah.
Hmm. Now your odds, you this is AI driven, or because we work with bookmakers in the past as well, and there's of course a very sophisticated system behind it, how you price traditional sports. How do you do this in the esports world?
Yeah, so we do. We actually have AI bots that do a lot of the trading. So, for example, we have this thing called streamer betting, where you can watch your favorite streamer on Twitch or Mixer on the platform and bet on them live.
Hmm.
Maybe not Mixer anymore now that Microsoft's shutting down Mixer,
Yes.
but the point is, you can watch streamers on Twitch and you can bet on them, and all of the odds are being handled by AI trading bots. It's pretty cool.
Right.
And then we have live sporting events or live esports events that people can watch and place bets on those. And some of it is handled by real people, some of it is handled by computers. And then we have virtual betting, virtual esports, which is all handled by computers and servers and things like that. So it's been really neat. Like we've been running this thing for 6 years now, and I'd say our technology is probably 2 to 3 years ahead of anyone else in the space.
Wow, awesome. And now, if I want to bet on an esports game, what am I betting on? Just winning, losing, or is there more, sort of in-game opportunities as well?
Yeah, there's live in-game opportunities. There's different handicap markets you can bet on. You know, there's all sorts of things that you can bet on in an esports match. It's similar to watching a game of football or something and betting on interception on a play-by-play or
Right.
that sort of thing. So yeah, no, you can bet on all sorts of stuff, and it really depends on the game.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, there's lots of live betting markets. We call them exotic markets. And it's things like who's going to win map two, or what handicap markets do you want to bet on, or what special markets, like who's going to stay on the field, and who's going to get the first kill. What's the correct score going to be? That type of thing.
Yeah, I love it. And I mean, as I said, we spent some time here in Asia, in the betting world. Many years ago, we helped set up some of the big bookmakers when they all went digital, Ladbrokes, etc. It's just a fascinating world, and of course, Asia is just crazy. People love betting here on stuff. So, is Asia? You mentioned it earlier, I think already. It is, I guess, a large part of your business, or where would that currently rank in general?
It is definitely a large part of the business. The only thing is, we've done we're a startup, right? So we only have so many resources. We haven't done a good job of localization yet.
Right.
Localization in Asia is not just about language. It's about, like how people like to bet and what they
Correct.
can bet on, things like that. It's super interesting to see how our business grows as we change some of as we optimize for localization and things like that. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, it is it's something that we do. As we optimize the business, as we localize in a specific market, we notice a big uptick. So.
Yeah. So how many languages are you right now on the platform?
So it's probably three or four at the moment, four.
Okay.
But again, like I said, it's not just about language; it's also about behavior.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and we haven't really done we haven't focused enough on specific behaviors in specific markets yet. We're just not there yet. We have so much more that we need to do to get there. I mean, I guess if we had unlimited money, we'd get there, a lot quicker.
Right.
But yeah, it's
But I think you mentioned before you only raised some sort of equity round at the very beginning there, 10 million or so, and then you raised 30 million in with the ICO, I guess. That's been it, right? That you have not been raising any other money, so the business is profitable and just spinning up cash.
So the business is it's not profitable in the sense that we're still we are generating revenue, no doubt, but we also have high development costs. We got server costs. We have people around the world. We have a big compliance team in the Isle of Man. Most of our management team sits in Sydney, Australia. Most of our devs are in Germany and Croatia. We have a pretty significant people budget. We've got some really, really good people. We have people in New York, Las Vegas, Seattle, and all these other countries around the world. So we're sort of at the point where we're building the company to scale, and I would expect us to be profitable within the next year. But it's hard to say. It depends on how many more things that we go after. Like as we add new products, we go after sports and things like that. The marketing costs are high, but we're a software company that happens to be building an amazing business around regulated business around regulated gambling and sports. We're building the future of digital gambling. That's what we're doing,
Right.
and so we need to spend money to do that. But I think we've attracted some really big brands to us. I think this is going to be a pretty a very important company in the space. There's no doubt in my mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Well, are you planning to raise some more to have more firepower, or that's really just trying to build it more organically?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we have a number of opportunities that have presented themselves to us since this pandemic started. To be quite frank, and I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with them. Karl is dealing with it right now. There's been a lot of opportunities that presented itself. We just need to make the right decision. The reason I'm hesitant to answer this is we don't want the same mistake that happened to us before, where we brought on a lead investor in our Series A, and we haven't really spoken to those guys because their fund blew up, and it blew up because of bad behavior within their fund, and then we got transferred to another group. Their LPs moved us over, and this group doesn't really know a lot about our business. I mean, they're great people, But we need investors that really understand the space, that can help us build and grow. So we're very careful about this.
Got it. Yep, I know. Being careful about bringing the right investors in. Now, just for a minute, let's talk about the ecosystem, right? I mean, you mentioned you've been a gamer your whole life, and on the back of it, of course, built incredible computers and your first brand. How do you see the interplay right now, the publishers, the teams, the platforms, and yourself there? Just talk us a bit through that. There's so many facets to it. Some people are betting on teams, of course, meaning as in investing in teams because they believe that's where the future is. I believe the future really still, the power sits with the publishers in many ways, or, of course, Twitch is very powerful. How do you guys, how do you see all that coming together, and how do you play with all those, components?
Well, look, you're talking about different things. Let's talk about the publishers first. When we first started this business, many of the publishers were hesitant. Some of them were, totally against what we were doing. And some of them were open to it. But now more and more of them are open to it. More publishers are realizing that there's an opportunity here. Gamers are getting older. They're not just 12-year-old kids. I'm in my mid-40s and I play games every day. Carl, my business partner, just turned 40. Happy birthday, Carl. He plays video games. He also bets. So, the market is definitely changing, and it's getting older, and it's also expanding in both directions. So this is a huge opportunity for game publishers to get on board now. And then at the same time, in the gambling space, things are changing quite a bit. As I mentioned, these casino operators are kind of in trouble now. And now they're thinking about the future of digital, like their digital offerings, and they see esports as this huge opportunity. And quite honestly, we're the brand. We're the company for esports. Anybody who wants to get into it should be calling us. Yeah. So we built a B2B offering, an offering to sell directly to businesses, and it's been really good.
Quick question then. Do you need the approval of the publishers to, price up their games, or you can do this without, having a deal with them?
No, not at all. This is sort of public domain stuff that we can take bets on. So it's been, it's just like if you're placing a bet on a sport, like the NBA or something, you don't need the NBA unless you're using the NBA assets, in your marketing. That. So yeah,
but you would be right. I mean, if you have to use their logo and their trademark in some fashion to price it up, no?
No, technically not. I mean, look, if we're broadcasting something that's being broadcast on Twitch and we're taking bets on it, or if we're just taking bets on something, we don't use their logos.
Okay.
You won't see us using their brand assets or things like that. I mean, everything we do is created by us. It may look similar, in some ways, but for example, if we're rebroadcasting an event, we're just taking the feed and broadcasting it. So no, we don't. But we do have very good relationships with the publishers. We have partnerships with them in that we create content with them. We have our own writers that go to events and interview players and things like that. And we also give feedback to the tournament hosts if there's something funny going on. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting, because and that is a big difference, I guess, to the real world. Right? The real world, if you're trying to take the feed of traditional sports, you have to pay for it, right? And that's where Perform and other players, IMG, created these companies which provide the OTT feed into gaming companies. So I guess because in the e-gaming space it's already free anyway, or a lot of it is free on Twitch and other platforms. It allows you to pull the feed in, I guess, and let people bet on it, right? That's, I guess, how you guys doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting. So how do you work with teams, or the big stars of the game,
We typically, look, we started a couple of teams. We started BIG, which is, one of the more successful CSGO teams. They were based in Germany. We had an ownership stake in them that we recently liquidated or are in the process of liquidating. We started an all-girls CSGO team at one point in time. We've sponsored teams before, so we're sort of just experimenting there. The team business is tough because we're it's not our core, and we're not used to sort of managing team houses and things like that. And then when it comes to tournaments, we sponsored tournaments we've done that type of work, and we continue to do that. So we like to give back to the ecosystem and help out where we can. And maybe over time we'll start another team. I don't know yet.
Is there conflict of interest when you have a team and people can bet on it?
No, it's like they do this in Premier League a lot. You'll see betting operators that own teams or have big stakes in teams. We handle ourselves, while dealing with our regulator, we handle ourselves differently. So when we own BIG, we never took bets on them, for example. Okay. It's not that we have to do that, because we're, internally we separate our marketing from our odds. It just completely, totally different teams, and they don't talk to each other. But you have to set up like internal disciplines when you do stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There can always be conflict of interest. Like, for example, if a streamer comes on our platform and wants to be sponsored, and we're taking bets on that streamer, we can't let new customers who are recommended by that streamer bet on that streamer, for example, on our platform. Okay. Right? Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference, really. I don't actually believe any gaming company owns stakes in teams. They are a big sponsor, and of course you see them all over Premier League jerseys and God knows what. So, but they don't really own the teams. And that's where you, like I said, right, sponsoring that and supporting, whether it's teams, streamers, or other influencers, that would make a whole lot of sense to me, because clearly that's where you get your eyeballs and new customers in there. And I don't see any real conflict there, but it's an interesting one of what you mentioned, that if an influencer brings customers in, so if you're saying, so if an influencer brings a customer in, the customer is not allowed to bet on that influencer?
Yeah. So what happens is that if an influencer brings a customer in, the customer can bet on the influencer, but the influencer doesn't get commission on that customer.
Oh, right. Gotcha. Right? Okay. So you don't have an affiliate program with influencers?
We do. So we let influencers become affiliates, but not for their own stream. So, for example, if somebody streams on our platform and they want to, they want to be an influencer and get a like an affiliate type deal, we'll let them get an affiliate on everything else but the streaming stuff that they do.
Gotcha. Well, talk about affiliate for a minute here. That was actually our role for Ladbrokes almost 20 years ago, where we were managing their affiliate program here in Asia. And these were, of course, naturally just websites which were talking about sports and maybe providing some input on odds, etc. What would be your affiliate program in that world? Do you have platforms out there?
We actually have an affiliate program. So we cut people in on on customers that they bring to the platform. That's just it's like any big operator. The affiliate business is a big deal. The difference between us and them is we've got a much broader offering. Besides sports, we have a very, very broad esports offering, the most breadth in the world on esports. We're the most comprehensive platform for esports and video games betting in the world. Right. Nobody does streamer betting. Nobody does virtual esports. Like, we created all that stuff, and they certainly don't do U-Mode. That's completely run by us. So.
Yeah. And I heard you before talk about was it virtual horse racing, right? I think it's one of your favorite topics. Tell me a bit about that.
So we actually got involved with a company called Zed, and what they do is they created a platform that lets you buy thoroughbreds online, and these thoroughbreds are built on blockchain. And they are they allow you to sort of breed them, trade them, race them, and at some point in the near future bet on them. And we worked with them on the development of their platform, and we continue to work with them on it. We have we have a vested interest in their business. It's like virtual horses, but the difference is that you actually own the horse, and you can do some cool things with it. So if you have a stable, you can actually download their VR app, and you can have your horse run around your yard, walk in your kitchen. It's really cool. And
that is cool.
And so not only do you get attached to this digital thoroughbred, but then you get to race it, and you win prize money if your horse wins a race. And the value of your horse, varies depending on how good it is. So, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, betting on racing or horse racing is huge, pretty much all over the world. So having a digital version of that, in some sense, I can see that that could become equally big. It's amazing. I love that. That's actually another thought just came to my mind. What is the biggest game in terms of people betting on right now? The biggest esports game?
Well, I mean, you've got CS:GO, you have League of Legends, Dota. I mean, those are big esports events that people watch.
Right.
The ones where they can bet on themselves. Fortnite is very popular. The sports games are popular. There's a number of different games that are popular, but in terms of the top three esports, it's CS:GO, Dota, and League of Legends.
Right. So pretty much the big games also are the big ones to people bet on. I guess it's just a simple correlation there.
Yeah.
How do you guys work with the Twitches and Steams and other sort of platform operators?
So how do we work with which platform operators? Twitch?
Yeah, if you let's say Twitch, is there an agreement that you take the feeds in from them, or how does that work?
But Twitch makes their feeds available for anybody as long as we don't modify their stream.
Okay.
So we just take their feeds in and broadcast their stream.
Right.
We don't modify it. We don't do anything to it.
Right. So you just right. There's a friendly relationship right there. I guess you're feeding off each other there.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
very cool. Rahul, this is really cool stuff. I love it. I want to go a little bit into, you've been an entrepreneur pretty much your whole life, right out of high school, which is amazing in itself already. If you would pick, a couple of things of what worked for you, what are the successful parts which you could share with someone who maybe is literally coming out of high school or college, or is just starting, if you were, go back, 20 years ago.
Yeah. So look, the thing that worked for me was just finding something I like to do and doing it. Right. It wasn't about money. I think the minute you make it about money, it's when you probably will fail. I just wanted to do something I like to do. I like to play games. I like computers, that was it. With Unikrn, it was kind of the same idea. I like to bet on sports and I like video games. Saw an opportunity there and went after it. And it turned out to be a pretty good bet so far. So I don't know. I feel like any entrepreneur should go out and do something that they like to do, but they should validate it first and make sure that there's an opportunity there.
Right. Well, that's very good advice. Now let's flip it the other way around. Where do you saw failures? Where are things which didn't work? You kind of alluded maybe a little bit with Voodoo that there's things which maybe your shareholders ended up making you do.
I've seen failures everywhere. I think you have to experiment and you have to make changes quickly. It's tough to be in a space and not adapt to change as quickly as you can. If you see a problem with your business, you need to fix it as quickly as you can. We've had issues with in some of our business where we're dealing in a highly regulated space, and in the gambling space, the regulators know who we are and they know what we do, and that's great. But in the crypto part of the business, it's challenging. There's not a lot of regulatory clarity there, and we've had some hits and misses, and we're constantly dealing with that. But the bottom line is, I've had I would say that you have to learn quickly, from your mistakes and adapt as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you could lose the business. You can make some serious errors along the way. We have made mistakes. We've made mistakes on products. We've made assumptions that were probably wrong. But we've learned quickly and we've adapted quickly. So
yeah, I mean, obviously you've been involved in many businesses, as advisor or I guess as a mentor with Microsoft, etc. What would sort of what's the biggest failure you would put the biggest lessons you've learned with any of the companies you've been involved in?
Well, I think probably the biggest lessons I got were from Microsoft mostly, and that was about going into a existing business with a large team and trying to find ways to lead people within a large organization that you don't know. And that requires a great deal of empathy, and that's something that we've been, that we learn that as entrepreneurs, you don't learn that right away. You think that you know everything, and and you don't. So I think I had a lot of really great learning experiences at my time at Microsoft. It was awesome.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I've never worked for a large company like that, so I wouldn't know. But I can imagine there's a lot of, I guess you have to be a bit humble, right, to get people to move in certain directions there. Very interesting. Now, to sort of wrap it up, and I really love this. It was a great deep dive into the world into your world here of esports and e-gaming. Where do you see the intersection here between traditional sports, which, like you said, you like betting on as well, and esports? Where does it maybe, in your mind, merge, and or how these two genres complement or compete with each other?
So where I see traditional sports and esports coming together, I think that, look, this pandemic is really going to change things, where traditional sports will think about using technology to enhance their viewing experience. I think the stadiums are going to have a problem. If you think you can just go back to stadiums in a couple of months and watch games, I just don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
I see a day where traditional sports start to adopt things like, camera technology and VR and AR, and make the viewing experiences really immersive from different locations.
Right.
That type of thing. I also see esports getting more physical, where you can actually play video games live, like laser tag for adults, run around an arena,
Mm-hmm.
shoot people and bet. Like so I see a merger of the two. This is just like, the future of entertainment. Where's the future of entertainment going? And what are you going to do to create wagering experiences around that? And that's what Unikrn does every day.
Yeah. We're interesting. We're having some interesting discussion with Karl about VR right now, which equally I believe that is such a huge opportunity for sports and of course esports as well. How you take traditional sports and then turning it into avatars where you would fight against Mike Tyson's and all whatever. So I think it's an amazing space, and of course wagering is always all around there. So I think you guys are in a very, very sweet spot there, and I can't wait and watch. And of course working with Karl on some other projects, I'll be watching it from the close distance up here. So. Thank you so much for your time, Rahul. There, you have a great evening in Seattle. Get yourself a coffee there, whatever you get there.
No problem. Thanks. Thanks for having me. It was fun. And
definitely.
If you have any other questions or anything, let me know. And if anyone wants to see what we do, you can find me on Twitter, Rahul Sood, and you can also find Unikrn at UNIKRNCO, Unikrn Co.
Yeah, like I said, I love that name. Whoever came up with it, that was brilliant. And I know you guys will be Unikrn very soon again there. So thank you so much, Rahul, and we'll catch up again soon.
Take care. See ya.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye-bye.
The Sports Entrepreneurs by Marcus Luer podcasts are a collection of interviews and stories. All content in this podcast is the copyright of Marcus Luer. Reproduction and distribution of the presentation without written permission of the owner is prohibited. All rights reserved.